Clearing out a little bit, huh?
Just a bit.
Only the grinders left. All right, so let's grind. David?
Hi, David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Now that you've had several padded practices, maybe I guess this will be the fifth, what are your impressions of Tyler Smith, just as far as his physical nature this early and also his technique?
Well, I mean, his physical nature, Tyler Smith is everything we thought it was. I think he's having a good camp for a young guy. But I mean, I look at Tyler and I look at all of our young players, particularly in the defensive and the offensive front. This is what they need, the footwork and just the pad level, the fits and so forth. So playing full speed, in the recognition of what the defense is trying to do. So I mean, he's definitely had some, he's had a couple looks that, he hasn't had yet, as far as particularly with, Micah blitzing in the A-gap and things like that. So doing a lot of good things, but he needs to work just like we all do.
John Michaud, The Athletic. Mike, from 2009, 2010, your team's in Green Bay. It seems like you were able to keep most of that coaching staff together, and then you guys end up winning the Super Bowl, obviously. You have most of your staff back this year from last year. Just
like the way you're thinking, John.
What is the biggest advantage from that? Is it out here? Is it during the week? Is it during games? Where do you think you get the best advantage from that?
I mean, continuity of your coaching staff to me is so beneficial on all fronts. I mean, just, number one, you look at the coaching profession, the time that you spend together, the commitment, what the families give up, being in tune, frankly, getting to know your staff, on a personal level more. So that's definitely, because coach's operations has a culture of its own too. So, and definitely be able to grow that has been a benefit. But then, then you get into the pure football component of it. The adjustments are seamless. I mean, if you're able to sit in the offense and defensive staff meetings, you're not really dissecting. It's more check and balance, and making sure the efficiency of what we're teaching, how we're doing it, because we've had the time now to have those long conversations to make a red zone adjustment, as far as coverage or make a situational adjustment, in between, whether we're going to defense or if we're going to field goal block. So, all those things, the majority of you've had time to have the longer meetings, discuss them, expectations of what we're trying to do, efficiency increases, pace of operation gets better, pace of the game is so important to winning, especially early in the year, mind speed, all those things, and your staff brings that to you because they have the connection and most importantly the relationships with our players, and you could just really see the efficiency of our team meetings and then our group meetings, our individual meetings, the talk-throughs, getting ready for practice. So, and I can only compare it to last year because that's the only applicable opportunity, and we're in a good spot today compared to where we were last year.
Newey Scruggs, NBC5. We got a chance to talk to Joe yesterday. Can you talk to us about what you like about his teaching skills, especially with the safeties? And
Joe Whitt?
Yes. And how does he become a coordinator?
Well, I mean, Joe Whitt's coordinator ready. That's not a if, it's just a when. I've had the true privilege and opportunity to work with Joe for a lot of years, over a decade, and watched him, grow from quality control, throughout the years. So excellent football coach, teacher. Love the way he not only coaches in the classroom, but Joe's really good on his feet and on the field. We always talk about coaching on the grass. The most important part of our job is what we do on the grass with our players, and I think that's clearly one of Joe's biggest assets. So, Joe just needs to just keep going, and he's done so many excellent things over the years. I'm great respect for him.
How would you evaluate the career in Russ right now?
I'm sorry, Kelvin.
How would you evaluate
Will Greer?
Russ? Yeah.
I think Will's taking a big step. I mean, you can see the instinct and awareness that, he was always, coming out of college, I think it's something that jumped out for him. Will's played a lot of quarterback. He come out of the womb playing quarterback for his dad. So now you're starting to see that in his comfort in our system and getting through the checks, where to go with the ball. And, now he's just playing quarterback again. I think, coming here when he did last year, there's definitely a transition through the terminology, the language, and all those types of things. But I really like the camp that he's had. He's definitely made a move this week. Cooper Rush is very consistent. Cooper, what I love about Cooper, he's the same guy every day, super consistent, very bright. Has great grasp of not only what we do and how we do it, but just really he's proactive with his adjustment thinking. He's great for the room. He's great for Dak, and he's always going to the right place with the football. So I think Cooper's had a very consistent camp.
Mike, Todd Archer of the ESPN. Today's practice, day before an off day, do you grind on him a little bit more on a day like today? Is it more game-like situations? Anything special about today's practice?
It's really what we're the whole week, Todd. I mean, I think it's natural, and I think you can make a mistake there. Have made those mistakes where you think it's the last one of the week, and you might push them a little bit. We actually cut a little bit of the practice out, and it's just really trusting the conversations with the medical staff and just watching each player's workload. So we spend a lot of time making sure we try to hit these guys, but and I say it every time we talk about this, but we're able to push them here in Oxnard. That's part of the beauty of working in California with this weather. But it's really looking at the whole week and everything leading up to where we are today. So, but yeah, it should be a heck of a practice. I know there's a big crowd out there, and I know our guys are looking forward. I thought they had really good energy in the meetings.
Say hello to Mexico.
Hi, Andrea Sola from Mexico City, TV Azteca. We love Dallas Cowboys in our country, so we wanted to know what's about Isaac and Jonathan progressing.
Oh, he's doing great, and thanks for being here. But Isaac's doing great. I think just the thing that you appreciate about him is, just all the extra work that he's done. I could just recall my first year with him and where he is today is, he's made tremendous strides. So he's done a great job with his body. I mean, his strength conditioning has been exemplary. So. But he's definitely going to be competing in the preseason games, and he's done a great job.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio. Following up on Calvin's question, I'm really not asking about the individual players so much, but I'm curious how you think the competition between Greer and Rush is similar to or different than the competition between Rush and Gilbert a year ago.
Good question. I think it's different on a number of fronts. I think where we are as an offense, in the quarterback room is a little different than we were last year. I think the growth of really having a chance to work with all four of those guys on a daily basis now for 2 years gives us more clarity of really where everybody is, and frankly, it's. And once we get through next week's practice, it's based on how these preseason comes down. I think that it'll really give all three of those guys, Cooper, Will and Ben, a chance to get a great evaluation. So, I mean, that's the outlook, and hopefully we can hit the practice targets, as far as our work today, next week, and so forth to get to that point.
It's Clarence Hill, Forward Star Telegram. Any of the injured guys coming back, getting running backs, tight ends, and piggybacking off that, especially with the running backs. We saw Zeke running as a full lead back with Tony in the
That's
back.
scheme, Clarence. He does this all the time. John, help him out. I can't talk scheme up here. It's illegal. I mean, guy, you got everything on video already. I'm checking all your accounts. I mean, yeah, you guys got better angles in our video department. Yeah. But Zeke's doing a lot for us. I think just like anything, I think it's obvious that Zeke and Tony need to be on the field. So I think that's part of it. So we'll just stay in the personnel group, Clarence. Okay, good.
Any of those guys coming back, and
Champ will be back. I don't think we really have anybody else, coming back today that didn't practice. Yeah. Leighton's back. Yeah, he got back last night. Yes, from.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio. Jabril Cox went through mock game
Yes.
yesterday. Is he going to be full go today?
That's a TBD. We're gonna work him early, but the goal was to get him out there today. I know I talked about yesterday, but Britt wants to work him early, so then we'll make a determination.
With Barr on PUP, is there an injury situation or a ramp up with
Ramp up, yep, definitely. Anthony, we're going to take him through a ramp up just to make sure he's good to go. So you'll see him increase his individual work today, and then we'll make an evaluation and see where his workload will be on Monday.
On McQuamu was the guy that you projected as a safety transition year last year. Has he caught on to the position now, and what are you seeing?
Oh yeah, I think Israel is one of our. If you look at the off-season program, talk about a young man that took a second-year jump. I've always appreciated seeing him. Obviously in the AM workouts, the voluntary AM workouts, and then you see him out there in the afternoon doing it again. So, and it's nice to see young men put in the extra time and make that jump. So he's obviously very comfortable. Obviously the games will be huge for him, just like it would be for any young player that didn't have a lot of opportunities in his first year, but so far so good. I mean, he looks good in the different personnel, the big nickel packages, and definitely looks to be establishing himself on special teams. So I think all the work that needed to be done from last year to this point, he's done an excellent job. A lot stronger, looks good, don't you think? A little feedback here. You guys act like this is a two-way street. I know it isn't, but yeah. Oh, boy, do we.
Skylar Dixon with the AP. You talked the other day about AB and maybe how he doesn't get appreciation from our side of things.
Thanks for bringing that up. I think that's a great point. I think if you look at AB the way he played last year, I mean, he had a heck of a year. I mean, it's just, obviously the opportunities and I can't say enough about him as a pro too. I think from year one to year two, he made the strength gains that he felt that he needed, and I thought it really showed last year. But I think he was clearly one of our. You're talking about Anthony Brown, right? Yeah. Okay. You kind of got that. Maybe it's the son. You're looking at me. You're looking at me like, what the hell is he talking about? Yeah.
Well, he and Jordan have kind of piled up the years here together, kind of quietly, maybe even more so with all the headlines that Trayvon got last year. I kind of wondered what you thought the value of those two guys was in that group and the continuity they brought even before you were here.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that was definitely, and you could even throw Cheeto in there. I just know coming in the first year, I was excited about those guys, the group, and Xavier also. So, but free agency, things change, and you got to make decisions. But, Anthony and Jordan are they're part of the fiber of our football team. What I love about those guys, it's, you try to give them a regen day, and they're still competing at ping pong and basketball, and it's just such a competitive group, and AB is so consistent, and I agree with you. I don't think he was recognized for the type of season he had last year.
Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Both Jake Ferguson and Jeremy Sprinkle were off to the side yesterday doing some resistance band training. Yeah. We're moving pretty well. Are they on track to return next week?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're doing better than I think expected on initial injury. So hopefully they're going to do a little more in the rehab today. And but coming off the day off yesterday, their workload with Britt will increase today.
Speaking back on Anthony Brown, is he bringing that confidence from last year into this camp? Is he having his best camp? I know you've seen him best.
I mean, best camp I've been a part with him. Absolutely. I mean, I think last year I thought he made a big jump, coming in. He was stronger, and I just see a very, very consistent player, from last year. And, he had the one game against Vegas there, but, I mean, if you'd heard the conversations that the officials were here that we talked about, not that you can go back and change calls or anything. We're not complaining, but it was good stuff. So, but I think once again he's super. He's talented. He plays the right way, and he's definitely a lot more comfortable in our scheme, which I think our whole defense is. I think it just the evident how we're flying around, and the communication on defense has been excellent, so far, and we want to build off that today. But we're off to a real good start, and AB is a big part of that.
Brad, since you asked, thank you. Just following up on that, is it hard to make sure that you are coaching the defensive back techniques that you want when the inconsistency in what gets called from crew? I'd forgotten about that Raider game until you brought it up. The inconsistency from crew to crew seems to be maddening. So how do you make sure when you're out here that those guys are doing what you are wanting to coach?
I tell you, that's a great question. I was having a hard time looking at your hat there, El Paso Chihuahuas, but I think it's a great question because it really illustrates what we just went through with the officials here. I think the fact that we were able to have the officials, I thought Brad Allen did a nice job, not only in, had them speak in the team meeting, but also in our individual meetings, where we were able to take probably a dozen throws, all these contested catches that we've had out here, and talk them through. And it's just like anything. Like I tell guys, we all know the rules, and they know the rules too. But it's what you'll see in this league is it's not only which roles they're going to emphasize more than others, but exactly how they're going to emphasize them. So I think it's like a lot of things we do. There's primary emphasis, there's secondary, and there's auxiliary. And that's, I do that where we're talking about running the football or defense, technique, and I'd look at officiating the same way. So just the fact that because that's DPIs, and every year we're talking about that as a league, and how that's officiated better. And I think just like anything, when you can create common language, common ideology of what we're trying to teach, because the worst thing you'd do as a coach is you're teaching in a technique that's now an indicator for them to call an emphasis. Well, that's not good coaching. So, and that's really why those conversations are so important, and the fact that they can give you detail, and the fact that they're in your meetings talking through with your players. Because like I tell the players all the time, I mean, they want to regulate the competition. They really don't want to officiate it. And I think there's a difference. They want to keep it fair. And I think just like anything, as a player, if you can communicate, and even the coaches early in the contest, or even and get on the same page, because their emphasis in week 1 isn't as consistent as it is in week 9. That's just the way it is. That's the way this game's played. So, they're in tune with that, and we just want to be a better job in tune with that, and because we want to compete, and we don't want to be taking advantage of trying to play the right way because we're worried about our penalty totals. I told you that in the beginning. We're going to play always the way we want to play with an aggressive play style, but we got to be able to be disciplined at that line and understand where the stress points and what those indicators are that they're really looking for.
Kayla Burton, NFL Network. Forgive me because I just came in a little bit late, so I don't want you to repeat anything. But is there a reason why you signed Barr now instead of a few weeks ago?
Well, I mean, just like anything in this league, there's a business component to it. So that's really, that's a realm that I'm not really directly involved in. But the interest was always there. I think the interest was clearly always there on both sides. And personally, I have the chance to compete against Anthony for a number of years. Just have great respect for his game, and just thrilled to have him here, be part of our football team.
Mike, going back to officiating for just a moment, in previous years when the NFL crews have been out here, they've spoken to the media and shown the video, but because there's not any huge rule changes this year, we didn't have the meeting. My question to you is, what did they say are the points of emphasis this year?
I mean, there's some things with the uniform, points of emphasis, which is normal. But I just think like when things get out of balance, they emphasize it even more. One of the things I wasn't aware of until Brad and the crew was here was, just how they're going to officiate when the ball goes out of bounds. As far as how they look at the boundary contact. So because if you look at the history, I don't know, it's been the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a lot more penalties called on the boundary than clearly 6, 7, 8 years ago. So how we coach that and how we emphasize that is slightly different than what we were doing last year. So that goes to Brad's question. That's what I'm talking about. The indicators, the emphasis. So, but in DPI is always a conversation. So we talked about that, defensive holding and the specifics of what they're going to call, what they're not going to call, the judgment of ball being catchable. So just things that they're really highlighting, because there's always been the 5 components of it. But just really what they're looking for. So really the dialogue between the officials and the players, to me, is always the greatest benefit of having those guys here. Now they love it because they get practice reps, and they get to work the game, work on their craft. And I mean, you think about it over the years, the officials spent three days in Dallas at a seminar. Now they're going to 3 training camps. So I mean, just to have that interaction increase that much, I'm very hopeful and confident that I think it'll benefit us.
Through your relationship with Rob Davis when you're in Green Bay, and what he brings to you when you wanted to have your staff here.
Yeah, I mean, Rob's a key component for me. Always has been. I think Rob has spent so much time in the locker room and clearly gets the relationship building component. So his ability to work on the overall culture and the needs of what we do day in and day out. Rob's job, compared to other assistants, his job doesn't really show up in a box score. It's something that, he's been an excellent asset, and his connection to, our coaching staff and our players is unique. So, but he's been able to work with the defensive line, work with special teams, and also, is going to work some with the offensive line. So just his ability to to be multifaceted, you know, it has been helpful. And, you know, obviously he has the experience of being a snapper. So, you know, just to work there with the special teams has been nice too.
One more.
I assume you're going to kick again today.
Correct.
Yesterday, it looked like you put your kickers through a stress test a little bit. How do you think they fared in that?
Oh, I think they're getting better. You know, it's definitely. That's why we need the reps. I mean, we recognize that early. I mean, you could just see it. I mean, it's once again, it's training camp for them too. I mean, we need to try to create as much, you know, live action or get it as close to what the game's going to look like. You know, we got a big crowd here today, so you know, it'll be nice to get them work, you know, in the special teams period at the beginning, but also they'll be part of the mojo moment. So it's a scoop here. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.